Damn, I guess you're right. But still, don't do it. Is that them Beyonce niggas?
Oh, this party about to be crazy.
So, my nigga made a movie. Me and Mr. Shadynasty here watched this movie over the weekend, and oh my god, this fucking slaps. Actually, that's the first thing about this project. It's not actually a movie. It feels like a movie. There's a 3-act structure, it has its own original score, it has all the moving parts of a movie, but it's the first episode of a, quote, TV special, so we will be getting more episodes for it, which personally I'm very excited about. But because I'm not pretentious, for the rest of this review, I'm just gonna call it a movie. If it looks like a movie, if it walks like a movie, if it talks like a movie, it's a movie. Intergalactic was made by hip-hop artist Kid Cudi, full name Scott Mescudi, who most people will know from his various works, such as Man on the Moon 2, and Man on the Moon 3. Intergalactic was also produced alongside a collaboration album that Kid Cudi had for this film, and I'm not a music critic. If I was a music critic, this wouldn't be my Spotify Rewind for 2021, but I can tell you the music is good. This movie has the added benefit of having not only its score, but its official soundtrack produced specifically for this film. And this is honestly a really good thing, because when you have scenes that need licensed music, it doesn't have to be a Rihanna song playing. It can be a song that was made specifically for this moment. I think it is kind of weird though, because Scott plays Jabari, the main character. So when we go from him f***ing his ex to a licensed song playing and it's actually Scott's voice, I think it's funny. I think his voice acting and singing voices are pretty distinguishable from each other, so you probably won't even think that if you don't already know what Kid Cudi sounds like. But once again, I just thought it was a funny thing. It's not really an actual complaint. The second thing that I'm going to talk about, which is more likely than not the first thing you noticed, is this movie's art and animation style. And the first thing you're probably going to want to say is, holy shit, that's Spider-Man! That's Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse! And while you're technically correct, it does take a lot of inspiration from that. They do have differences. Largely, this movie has a much more painted art style, and the animation style is vastly different. While it does take some pages out of Into the Spider-Verse's book, it does take a lot of its own liberties. This movie has a lot more of a stop-motion animation style, which is sometimes for better and for worse. There are scenes where this animation looks gorgeous. It's fluid, it's flowing, it's smooth, it's great, it's fantastic. But sometimes this film can drop its frame rate down to as low as 8 frames per second, which seems like a stylistic choice, but looks more like Breath of the Wild in handheld mode. It only happens a few times in the film, but when you notice it, it's really jarring. But what really makes this movie shine is its characters. Largely because a lot of the time they don't even feel like characters. They can feel like real people. Maybe it's just a circle that I hang around, but a lot of the people in this movie feel like people that I know in real life. For better or worse. They lie to each other, they hurt each other, they laugh with each other. Some of them are voiced by Kid Cudi, and some of them are white. So it really is just like real life. Every last one of these characters is actually really fleshed out. For most of them, you can pinpoint things such as their desires, their hobbies, their interests, their character traits and flaws. It really is a lot of fun to just watch these characters interact with each other, even if it is the most ridiculous humanly imaginable. Even some of the minor characters in this movie are really interesting and help propel the narrative a lot. And honestly, I'm very excited for the next episode of this because I'm very excited to see these characters again in the future. Although the plot and the story for this movie are both very simple, that doesn't mean they're both good, which is something Kingdom Hearts has yet to learn. It focuses on our main character, Jabari, falling for his next-door neighbor, Meadow, which is honestly just a really heartwarming and fun story to watch unfold. We see the highest highs and the lowest lows of their relationship, and honestly, it just really reminds me of a time when I was happy. I think the best part of this entire movie is a montage sequence that happens about an hour in, but we'll get to that later. That's what the spoiler section is for. This movie is also divided up into chapters that help distinguish a certain aspect that they'll be tackling for the next 15 to 20 minutes of the story, while still managing to hold up a coherent plotline, which honestly I think is something the writers deserve a little kudos for. On top of that, this movie actually does a lot of what people in 2022 can't do, and manages to keep it real. Did I write that shit? This movie doesn't really get too political outside of its second chapter. It does make some jokes about races, Meadow notably making a joke about how white men don't do it for her, but it's not really something they joke about too much. That being said, I think black people are going to find this movie funnier and more relatable, largely in chapter 2, but the casting characters really are a melting pot. This doesn't really focus on a story about being black. Jabari's best friend and drug dealer is actually a white guy, who's voiced by... He's voiced by Timothée Chalamet. Do we have the same drug dealer? This movie does focus on other political themes, such as sexism, but once again, it takes a backseat to the plot. That's not the point of this movie. Before we get into spoiler territory, I'm gonna give Mr. Shadynasty to count us down from 3. If you don't want to watch the spoiler section, skip to this timestamp. Alright, Shadynasty. Actually, this isn't even really a review section of the spoilers. I just wanted to talk about how funny and interesting this movie can be at times. I like the chapters, and also specifically the chapters' names for the movie. Those being Dog Whistle, Light, Bright, and White, Secret Spot, Punan, It Was Yellow, and Do It On Purpose. They really help this movie not only form an identity, but help make it more memorable as well. Personally, I'm of the belief that no movie ever has required a sex scene. Largely because it never really enhances the plot or actually adds anything that we can't infer. But this movie has 2 of them, and I think they're pretty good. That's not what I meant. The first one, and for obvious reasons this will be heavily censored, is played entirely for laughs, so I don't even know if it counts. But it's really funny, and oddly enough has a really cool animation style. But the second one is actually really what's important. There's this honestly beautifully done scene that I referenced earlier, the montage. It focuses on Meadow and Jabari throughout their first month of their relationship after they sleep with each other in chapter 4. And the reason I think this scene is so well done is because it's not just 3 minutes of straight action. It's cut in between Jabari and Meadow going on dates, and every time they go on a date, they play a little bit of hide the cucumber. What's so harmless about that? I genuinely think this serves a purpose because not only does it deepen their bond, but it shows how genuinely in love they are with each other at this point. But once again, this scene isn't just straight sex for 3 minutes. It makes it a lot more palatable when it's only them poking the Hanas for about 8 seconds at a time. In chapter 2, Light, Bright, and White, in Jabari's nightmare scene where Mr. Rager is chasing him, it's so well done. If this wasn't a YouTube video, I would just show you this full scene here because it's fantastic, and I think the animation team deserves the world for how impressively well done this is. This one's actually a bit of a complaint, but in chapter 5, when Jabari refuses to explain to Meadow what actually happened between him and Carmen, to be fair, I guess, babe, I was killing a spider, does sound kinda douchey and a little bit like bullshit. But all he goes on to explain is, yes, I was there. I just don't get why he wouldn't have explained, I don't know why she sent me that picture, and the only reason I was there was to help her out. He also could have pointed out that they haven't talked to each other for over a month, so that picture was just as random to Jabari as it was to Meadow. But to be fair, I guess I wouldn't really even blame Meadow if she just kind of didn't want to deal with that shit or just didn't understand. But I think it's weird that he never even really pled his case at all. Something subtle that I liked was Meadow's best friend, Vanessa, was pregnant for most of the film. It comes off as a minute detail at first, but it actually plays into the montage scene and helps portray the passage of time just a little bit better throughout the film. If you were a good kid earlier and skipped the spoiler section, congratulations, you're all caught up. So I've pretty much spouted nothing but praise for this film, and I mean, there really isn't that much bad to say about it. Outside of some choppy animation, this movie is great. The writing is sharp and witty, the music is curated specifically for this movie, and the movie is just a joy to watch through and through. For that reason, this movie is going to get a 9.5 out of 10 on the critical score. The animation just takes some, frankly, unexcusable frame rate dips at times, but everything else in the movie is really spot on. But for the fun score of this movie, it's gonna get a 10 out of 10. I mean, there's a sex scene that might be awkward, but if you're watching alone, it's not that big of a deal. And if you're watching with friends, it'd probably just be something you laugh at. I sent this to my friend with the caption us, and he just gave me the thumbs up emoji, so I don't think that's going to be worth taking points off the fun score for. Well, Shadynasty, I would say this is a good reprieve from watching Sharknado. Let's see what's next on the list. We got She-Hulk, we got Birdemic, we got Morbius, too soon. Oh, the Emoji Movie.